Hello my friends, my name is Henry, and I'm going to be talking to you about this game, Wizard Bullets. It's a tabletop role-playing game. If you've played 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons or maybe Pathfinder, a lot of this stuff will be familiar to you, but it's a game that I've been developing for the past about 3 years. Everything from the game mechanics to all the artwork is all mine. It's set in a sort of like Western fantasy, like cowboys and stuff, but also mixed with like orcs and elves and stuff like that. There's also like some tech punk sort of stuff in there, diesel punk or whatever, but that's just the setting that it's in. You can obviously kind of play with whatever setting that you want, and what I'm going to be doing is going over this version of it. This is the latest version. It's going to be the public release version that is completely free, so you'll be able to download this PDF right now and read the rest of it. I'm going to read through all of it over time, but for this video it's just going to be the first 10 pages, and I'll continue to do the next 10 pages and stuff like that. And then people that subscribe to the Patreon will be able to get access to the latest version of this. The free version will still get essential updates, so if something desperately needs to be changed, the free version will get an update like that. Let's get started. So we have the table of contents and an introduction. The introduction kind of just goes over what are player characters, what are characters, who's the game master, what are game sessions, what's session 0, stuff like that. If you've played tabletop role-playing games before, again, a lot of this will be quite familiar to you. Okay, so rolling dice. This game uses a 2d10 system, so a lot of the numbers will be very similar to your 5th edition stuff. If you're coming over from 5th edition, you could probably even convert some of your stuff to this system. It wouldn't be too hard, as I'm going to show you in Tailspire, is that you take 2d10, roll them both at the same time, and add the results together. Your normal d20 sort of check is supplemented by 2d10. So if we roll 2d10, okay, we got a 10 and a 10, and that would be our result. Challenges, so challenge score, that's your DC, that's your difficulty class, and a challenge is an attack roll or a skill, either or of those things. And so when you roll the 2d10, you're rolling against the challenge score, and if you roll above, you succeed. Pretty normal, standard stuff. Rolling doubles. So there is no like natural 20 in this game. Instead, if you roll 2 of the same number and you exceed the challenge score, or you exceed the challenge score by 10 or more, you roll doubles. Or you get a doubles hit or a doubles success. Doubles hit is for attacks, spell attacks, weapon attacks, and then double successes are for your tasks, so your skills. We did roll 2 10s earlier, but you know, if you rolled and you got 2 of the same number, so if those 2 4s, you'd have rolled doubles, but you would still need to overcome the challenge score in order for that to count as a crit. If you perform a task, like a skill, like athletics or something like that, and you double success, you get bonus experience, and experience is shared among everybody. The better you are at skills, the more XP your friends will get. Let's go over to altering dice results. This game does have advantage and disadvantage. The way that works, instead of rolling 2d10, you roll 3d10. If you have advantage, you pick the highest result of the two, and if you have disadvantage, you pick the lowest result of the two. Let's say we have advantage, we roll 3d10, and we got 2 6s and a 9. Now, in this instance, we have the option of picking doubles. If you have advantage, you have the option of picking doubles. So you could pick the 6 and the 9 and get a 15 result, or you could choose the double 6s and try to get that crit. It's going to be the result that is most favorable to you, is basically how it goes. And the same thing is in reverse for disadvantage. So if we rolled both 2 6s and a 9, if the double 6s, which would result in like in a critical hit or something like that, if that would be successful, then disadvantage would say, okay, no, ignore that, go for the 6 plus the 9, which is still a success, but it's a not crit. So that's how disadvantage would work. Expertise. In this game, expertise is an additional die, and it works just like advantage. So you have your standard roll, you start out with a d6, and eventually it becomes a d10. So if you have expertise in something, and you need to be proficient in whatever it is that you're doing in order to have expertise in it. Let's say we're just to have a standard roll, and we're rolling with expertise. So you see, we got a 7 and an 8, and then a 2. So we would pick the highest of the 2 results of those 3. So we got a 7 and 8, so our expertise die doesn't really come into factor. So starting out, it's kind of like an anti-bad roll die. It's supposed to help it so that the average of your roll is higher, and it does increase your chances of getting doubles, but not by much. when you're max level, this d6 will turn into a d10, and then you will start critting like crazy. So it's kind of slow going, but it eventually becomes very powerful. Now, if you have advantage, you'll do 3d10, and then you also still get to roll your expertise die. So you get to pick the highest two of these results. So that'd be a 5 and a 7. But when you're rolling 4 die, you have a larger chance of getting doubles. So that's where that comes in. Now, if you have advantage, you can roll everything together because you're going to pick the highest one either way. If you have disadvantage, what you're going to do is you're going to roll your standard roll with your expertise. And you're going to roll, and you're going to be like, okay, cool, we got a 7 and a 5. That's our result. Then you roll the disadvantage die and see if you got a 2. So now our 7 and 5 would turn into a 2 and a 5. So that's what disadvantage does. Disadvantage is stronger than expertise. Same thing with advantage. Technically, if you have advantage, you would roll the same way. You would roll 2d10 plus your expertise, and then you would roll your advantage die and pick the highest result after that. You kind of don't have to do that because you get to pick the highest two no matter what. And then rerolls. So all rerolls just says is if something asks you to reroll, you reroll all over again with the same bonuses and the same stuff. The new result is what you get. Okay, difficulty. The difficulty is what determines what the challenge score is. So you have two kinds of difficulty. You have static and scaling. So if you're familiar with 5th edition, you'll know that 5th edition has like this sort of like very easy score of like 5, and then easy of like 10, and then medium of like 15 or something like that. That is static difficulty. So if anything is considered hard, that's what the difficulty is. If anything is considered medium, that's what the difficulty is. You kind of have a table right there of what the normal static difficulty is. And then you have scaling difficulty. Scaling difficulty just says you still have easy, medium, hard, and very hard, but now it's based on the PC's level. You will notice that it is easier starting out, but as the players level up, it gets harder and harder, and it becomes even more difficult. We've play tested with normal scaling, and it's fun, so it's just an option. And that's the normal difficulty. I would recommend that most people play with normal difficulty. And then we have Bite the Bullet. All Bite the Bullet does is just say that DCs are higher. It's if you think that the normal stuff is too easy, you can always go with the Bite the Bullet one. There's optional rules for it to even make it like even harder. Levels. A player character starts out at level 1, and the maximum level for a player character is 10. Monsters and NPCs and stuff like that, their level is technically uncapped, but based on the rules that exist, they can only go up to like level 12 or 13. But the way that player characters earn experience to get more levels is that they have to earn capital, so money or like stuff. So they have to earn things that are of monetary value. And there's capital bills, so instead of like gold coins, you could use gold coins if you wanted to. Obviously, it's your setting. You can do whatever. So capital bills are like your gold coins, and they're called caps. And so for each cap, you get 1 point of experience. When player characters level up, their experience is set to 0. So any excess that you get is completely diminished. It kind of sucks, but it makes it so that leveling doesn't happen too fast, as there are only 10 levels. And then we have contracts. So contracts are your quests, the things that you can do to earn money. And there's an optional rule that says if you don't want caps to be tied to experience, that's totally fine. You can separate them. You can reward experience and caps individually, whatever floats your boat. We have contract payment. So when you complete a contract or you take on a contract or any adventure that you go on, the player characters will get paid, right? It could be just looting a dungeon. There doesn't have to be a quest or a contract or anything like that. But as this is sort of like a Western-style game, or at least it's set in a Western-style setting, your contracts are like your bounties or whatever, right? In terms of payment, we have low payment, normal payment, high payment, and very high payment. And these are all corresponding to difficulty. So you get low payment for doing something that's easy, you get normal payment for doing something that's medium difficulty, you get high payment for something that's hard, etc., whatever. And then you have a payment table. It's not based on scaling difficulty, but it is based on the player's level. Even if you don't use scaling difficulty, you will still use this table for payment, and all this table says is this is how much caps the party earns. So a level 1 party that does a medium contract or a medium paying contract will earn 50 caps. Now, this is if you are playing with 4 players. So this 13, this little stuff in parentheses, all that says is if there's more than 4 players, each additional player gets that much. If you're playing with 5 players, you get 13 extra, and the additional caps does not count towards experience. Okay, tasks. So tasks are like skills. Basically, they're your skill checks. To perform a task, you roll 2d10 and add your task bonus, and you try to beat the challenge score. So you can be proficient in tasks, and you choose your proficiencies during character creation. You have your skill bonus, which is all the modifiers added together. That's your bonus for your skill. Each skill is associated in attributes, so you get to add an attribute to your skill. And now there is the option to use a different attribute for a skill if it's appropriate, if the GM thinks it's cool. The example it gives is, for instance, if instead of using athletics, a character might need to use a strength-based technology task to move a stiff or heavy lever, or maybe kick the machine into working again. There are perks or features that allow you to use different attributes for different skills, just outright. And passive tasks. So when a character would attempt the same task multiple times, or spend a considerable amount of time doing a task, they are performing a passive task. So if you spend like 10 minutes, an hour, trying to like pick a lock or keep watch during camp or something like that, you might be required to make a passive task, which basically just says you don't get to roll 2d10, it's just a 10. You just get a 10. If you have advantage or expertise, you get a +4 for each of those. If you have disadvantage, you get a -4. Contests. Contests are basically just when you perform a task, and instead of trying to beat the challenge score, you're trying to beat someone else's task. If you get a tie, you just re-roll until someone succeeds. So modifiers and attributes. So a modifier is basically just any number that you get to add to your roll in order to help you succeed. Bonuses are just all the modifiers combined. So if something asks for your bonus, you are going to add all the modifiers together, and that's what you add to the roll. That's all we're going to cover for right now. Next time, we will be going into all of the attributes and what you get for investing into those attributes. If you want to catch that video, go ahead and subscribe, share to your friends. Yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.